Hooray! We did something all sorts of illegal.
Cool number for this one. Basically, could just lead into the episode proper, so may as well just get into it. We opened on a soccer game, and after some really sloppy editing, we focused in on Kimura and Marina.
No, kid. You forgot the first poses of that henshin. I mean, come on, even Saber gets it.
But yeah, this episode was meant to be a bit of a follow-up to episode 11 from last season, where Kimura, in order to make up for not apologizing for crushing a few of her flowers, tried to save them during a storm. Ultimately, the Ojamajo saved the day, and he got a cold for his troubles, but still, Marina thanked him with a daisy. Though interestingly enough, while that episode was written by Reiko Yoshida, this one was penned by Akatsuki Yamatoya. Yoshida is actually going to write the next episode.
Still, I'm sure not having the same writer won't affect the quality of a sequel. I mean, just look at... So anyway...
The two were getting close whilst talking about that same flower from the previous episode in a nice callback. Marina was even going to talk about the flower language behind them until...
Oh, would you look at that? Would you look at the time? I think I got a dentist appointment I need to get to, so farewell for now and bye. Okay, I'll finish up the review. Jeez.
Yep, after a nice callback, we got well, actually, this isn't even that much of a callback, as it is repeating a plot point from the previous episode. Yeah, for those who don't remember, one of the reasons Kimura didn't apologize was because of peer pressure from these numbnuts.
Now back then, I was able to forgive them, as it all was a part of the lesson of the day about not giving into peer pressure and all that jazz. However, on second offense, not so much.
Because, spoilers, this is essentially going to lead to a bit of a repeat of episode 11, except not quite as good the second time around in my opinion. I mean, sure, some of the story beats are going to be different, but still hits the same major plot points, with Kimura again insulting Marina, and in fact even worse this time, and ending on an apology involving a daisy. And you know, stuff like this is exactly why I hate the Three Stooges. They never develop in spite of clearly seeing their jokes leading to divine punishment right out of the Bible.
And yes, I get that there will always be clowns like this in any school, but it still doesn't make for very compelling writing, especially when, in order to remain relevant, they have to backtrack on the developments of other characters.
As I just said, Kimura insulted Marina even worse than in the previous episode, going full Spy Family Damien on her. Granted, I don't want to see him get an Anya Punch, though I absolutely would approve of all three of these stooges getting one each. But yeah, in spite of the fact that he really should have learned how not to give into group mentality, we're just gonna end up repeating the same lesson, all because these three will only ever be one bad overused joke!
Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
And yes, I have heard that one of them, I'm not sure who, will develop eventually, but that still won't change my opinion on this episode, or the fact that apparently later on, they're going to fat shame one of their classmates, so yeah.
So, we then cut over to the Mahodo, where the Ojamajo were setting up shop, while the fairies played with Hana, or rather, she played with them.
I'm sorry, I think I might have had a little too much. Can I hear that again?
Like, I get that this is Yamatoya's first episode of the second season, but did he, not read or watch any of the previous episodes? Seriously, dude, just stick with Gintama, that's what you're good at. But anyway, Marina later stopped by, and the Ojamajo tried to learn more about flowers, and especially seeds, through her. Of course, the little flower girl wasn't totally into it, which our protagonist took note of, and Hazuki in particular tried to learn what had happened.
I'll refer you back to this time code if you want to know the reason.
But yeah, the Ojamajo learned about the situation, and I will admit, I liked that Marina tried to stay strong by writing it off as nothing, even though it still did clearly bother her. If this episode had been more about stuff like this, instead of repeating Kimura's conflict from last season, I think I would have liked it more, but as is, yeah, it's just an infuriating watch.
And speaking of infuriating...
木村君二人は仲良くあちち
yeah, excuse me. I think I just need to make a quick market run to buy a kegger.
Anyway, the Spy Family references just kept flowing as the Ojamajo tried to pull a Lloyd and isolate the kids to get one of them to apologize. Though interestingly enough, they did move a few other events around.
Oh, come on. Unless that thing looks like Gene Simmons, there's no reason to be afraid of it, you little pansy.
However, Kimura wasn't going in the right direction, so the only solution was more cows because, yeah, healing magic is bad in this show, but creating this amount of even temporary life is a-okay. Gotcha. Anyway, it ultimately proved to just be counterintuitive.
おい小泉牛がいたんだいきなり道路に何十頭もいてよ俺どうし
Hello, Keisatsu. Yes, I think my classmate is having a bit of a mental breakdown.
Later, when they regrouped at the Mahodo, Ompu and Majorika said what I've been saying a few times in these reviews, that they're better off just letting the kids sort things out for themselves. And while in the case of the latter, it was just to save resources, it ultimately kinda proved to be true, as all it really took for Kimura to realize that maybe he shouldn't mind the opinions of the trio, who were all clearly dropped on their heads, was having a little talk with Masaru. Oh yeah, he had actually been cleverly referenced earlier in the episode, back when Hazuki and Marina talked. In fact, this conversation very closely paralleled that one, so yeah, that was a nice bit of foreshadowing.
Again, I do think there are some good ideas in this episode, but they're ultimately just buried under all the other stuff.
Anyway, as I said, we start to wrap things up with one of our spotlight characters trying to deliver a daisy to the other, though this time the shoe was on the other foot. And while he initially couldn't find any due to a supply chain shortage, same, a certain god baby managed to manifest one into existence. With that, we at least ended this episode on a nice note with Kimura giving her the flower, and Marina finally revealing what it meant.
無邪気デイジーの花言葉
Well, actually it's more like innocence and purity, but sure.
It's a matter of interpretation.
This was a frustrating sequel to a good episode from the first season.
There were certainly good new ideas here, and I did actually like how the ending here inverted the previous one. However, like many a sequel, it fell into the common trappings of repeating the same plot points and thus requiring regressing character development.
Even if I could ignore the Stooges, it is still frustrating that ultimately there weren't a lot of new developments here, making for a rather unremarkable little filler episode.
I get that they're kids and sometimes they do need to relearn old lessons, but my question is, why do it with almost the exact same scenario, much less with some of the worst characters in this whole show? Again, the Stooges are just not all likable for me when they have so many opportunities to develop, and yet even though they do show some signs leaning towards that, they always revert back to the same old cringy jokes. Though, to be fair, yet again, this might have been a symptom of the creators getting a sudden sequel. While they were coming up with new ideas like Hana, they also did need to draw from season's one well of ideas, no matter how bad some of them were. And even then, they did incorporate some good new ideas here, like how ultimately the Ojamajo just needed to take a backseat and just sell a flower to let this conflict naturally resolve itself. And even though it didn't nearly get as much focus as it needed, I like the parallels with Hazuki and Masaru, which ultimately did play a big part in the resolution to this conflict. However, again, a lot of that was overshadowed by the repeated elements from the prequel to this, which is still very much superior, as at least the Stooges weren't quite as annoying, and the lesson of not giving into peer pressure was still fresh. While any programming should be allowed to stand on their own, when sequels like this repeat a lot of the previous installment's elements, it's hard not to make these comparisons. Thankfully, the Hana plotline, which for whatever reason the Ojamajo just kind of forgot about, will continue next time, and we can just move on from this, because as you can tell, I did not love this one.
After that little Yu-Gi-Oh video, I think I'm just gonna slow things down and maybe focus more on finishing up that whole Tropical Rouge manga. Yeah, I know this year's release schedule has been kinda sporadic. We are trying to work within the boundaries of my normal work schedule, but I do hope that everyone continues to enjoy this content. Now, for whatever reason, the PPG-Z reviews have seen a sudden uptake, so at least y'all are enjoying that, so look forward to next week, I guess, too. And until next time, though, for now, my friends, and okay, I think I need to go get my liver checked out.